Hey guys, this was a video request by Nathaniel100694. Now he sent me a message and he wanted me to show the difference between good knives and bad knives. And I told him I would, and that's why I'm making this video. And this video is requested by him, but it's for everyone. It's for all the people who like watching my videos. It's for anyone who has anything, or ever had any interest in knives in general. I want to explain a couple things. Today I have two lesser quality knives, okay, or what you would call poor or bad, and then I have two better knives, and this is purely my opinion. Well, actually that's not true. There's certain factors that prove that these are lesser quality and these are a little bit better, but for the most part, to say you have a good knife is opinion. To give you an example, there's people who can go to a flea market and pick up a $4 knife and use it and love it and know no difference. There's a lot of people who own knives and even have knife collections that never spend more than 50 bucks on a knife, and they think that their $20 knife is awesome, and that their $5 knife is just okay. And then there's other people who, spend five, six, $700 on each knife, and they buy customs. And I know a lot of people are probably shocked by that. $700 for one knife? Well, yeah, custom knives for the most part are $400 and up. And you can even get into the thousands, but for the most part, the ones that are that expensive are more artwork. Although there are functional knives, you're getting into a more precise artwork rather than a user knife. There's not many people who use $1,400 knives, although I'm sure there's someone out there who does. But anyway, my point is that it's really subjected to your opinion. If you have a $4 knife and it works for you and you're able to use it, that's awesome. I can't tell you how great that is. For me, there's certain aspects in knife making and quality aspects on production knives that I need. For one, peace of mind. For safety, and I'll go over that in just a minute. I'll give you lots of details and explanations for that. And then two, just performance. I'm already at 2 minutes just blabbering, so let me show you what I'm talking about. This, I don't know how much this costs. I got this recently with a bunch of other knives. It's brand new. It's a pretty cool design. A lot of people might look at that and say, oh, that's a cool knife. I wish I had that. If you were sitting in front of me right now, I'd give it to you. Like I said, it is a cool design, but in opening it up, now first of all, let me tell you, this is technically, this is a frame lock, because the frame is what's moving over, okay? It does have handle scales, but they're not complete scales. If these scales went all the way across the knife, it would be considered a liner lock, because at that point, it's the liner that's moving over. But anyway, this is in the open position. This is not locked up. You see there, it's not all the way locked up. If I were to tap on something, you would see that the lock was never engaged, or it would appear that it failed. Opening this all the way, it does not lock. In order to lock this, I have to either whip it open, now it's locked, or forcefully open it with my thumb. Okay, and even with that little bit of force I put on there, it's still not locked. So that's one thing about cheaper knives that you're going to get, is that the tolerances, the spaces in between parts, are not always correct. Sometimes the top of the lock is on a slant, in the bottom of the tang on the knife where they're supposed to connect. It's on a slightly different slant, or whatever. So you're not going to always get you're not going to have a 100% lockup rate, which is very important for me. If I need to use my knife real quick, open it up, I like to think it's locked. Now, some people argue, should I get this kind of lock, an Axis lock by Benchmade is supposed to be the best, I heard, and then, or lockbacks are the best, and so forth. For hundreds and hundreds of years, or, at least from the creation of the folding knife, there was no lock for the longest time. I mean, there's plenty of people out there who like slip joints and non-locking knives. And if this didn't lock on me, if I practiced safe cutting habits, I wouldn't need a lock on a knife. You'd like to know it's there just in case, but for the most part, you shouldn't be putting any pressure on the back of the blade. Okay, so that's the first thing. But not everyone is always thinking about what they're supposed to be doing, and if an accident happens, you want to know that there is a lock there that's going to keep you from injuring yourself or others. So that's the first thing, is these don't lock up solid. Here's the other lesser quality knife. This happens to actually lock up on every time almost, but it has an extremely thin liner. And because it's so thin and because there's such a wide opening or gap, it flexes very easily. And some people, do the spine whack test, is what it's called, where you would, this is the spine of the blade, and let me move my camera down here. You would whack it on the back of a surface of somewhere, and if it fails, of course this one, there we go, it failed. Then of course they would exclude this in their description of a good knife. And I don't know about the spine whack test. It's not something that first of all, you don't want to be whacking your knives around. I have kind of mixed feelings on it. It's good to know that that's, if you were to do that with your knife, if it was open, you accidentally hit on the back of something, you'd want to know whether it closed on you or not. But I don't really think that's a very scientific, way of going about it. But if it works for you, that's great. For the most part, what I'll do is I will move my hand to the back of the knife in case it closes. I don't cut myself, and I will forcefully push. Now that's another thing. These cheaper knives, they have a lot of what's called blade play. That means in the open and locked position, the blade will move. It will move around. If you hold it tight, it'll wiggle around. This one happens to have side-to-side blade play and vertical blade play. So the blade is literally wiggling all around. Of course, I can tighten this screw, but when you have cheap construction, the screws are going to get loose on you and stuff like that, and you're going to have a constant blade play problem. So another drawback to these knives. But let's see, what else can I say? General overall construction. The materials are much cheaper. This is a very cheap plastic. If I were to drop this, there's a good chance that this handle could crack. It could break, especially if I were to drop it on concrete, rock, anything like that. You don't want your handles, to break. This one happens to be a little better quality. But this coating looks cool. It's probably a very cheap coating. It'll scratch off very easily with use. It'll look pretty crappy pretty fast. So there's a couple things you want to look out for in buying knives. The better of the four knives here are the cold steel Tylite. For one, uses Zytel handles, which is a glass reinforced plastic. They melt plastic and glass together. It's extremely hard, durable. This will not break. You might get a scuff on here. You can throw this on the ground as hard as you can. It won't break. Same goes for this. This is just a stainless steel construction. This is a Columbia River Knife and Tool Mount Whitney. This is part of the 14K Summit series. The Mount Whitney is the largest in their line. This is actually out of production. They don't make this knife anymore. But anyway, with these other two knives, first of all, you have good construction, good materials used. You have better blade steels that are going to hold an edge longer for you. This one, I believe, offhand is AUS 8A. The cold steel Tylite, I think, is the same. Yeah, AUS 8A. It's a good performing steel. Commonly found in mid-ranged folders from like $30 price range all the way to like $70 price range. So overall construction's better. The screws don't strip out. The materials used are better. Your edge is going to hold an edge longer. It's going to stay sharper longer. What you'll find that's very common on these cheap knives, and this one actually has a V grind, which means both sides are ground the same angle, which is better. But this one happens to be somewhat chisel ground, meaning that your main grind is on one side, and then the other side is barely touched. Now what that does is that makes for a sharp knife, and that's what you'll see that's very common on cheaper knives, because you'll get them and you'll see like, wow, that's really sharp. But it's not going to hold an edge very long, and when you go to sharpen it, you're going to find the steel is very poor. So unfortunately, that's a problem on cheap knives. The chisel ground is great with a good steel, but most of the times you don't have a good steel. On the cheap ones, anyway. Anyway, that's about it. Now, there's a couple other things I could say, but I'm reaching my 10-minute mark here. But that's about it. It's subjective to each person. Your cheap knife could be someone else's good knife, and it could be the same exact knife. So it's really up to the user. If you enjoy your knife, it's a good knife. That's about it. Once again, thanks guys for your time.